This preview will introduce you to the key concepts for which the official CISSP review seminar and exam are based. In the first domain, Information Security Governance and Risk Management, ISG2 sets the foundation of the CISSP CBK with a high-level discussion of the three principles of security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, more commonly referred to as the CBK triad CIA. In this domain, 4 focus areas are discussed. 1. General definitions and foundationary concepts. 2. Information security management structures and IT security governance. 3. Risk management and analysis. And 4. Ethics pertaining to information security. Section 1. General definitions and foundationary concepts. With any management process, effective communication is vital. Thus, general terms must be established and agreed upon before information can be exchanged and knowledge gained. Information security management and related processes use numerous technical terms that are quite often ambiguous and misunderstood. The CBK draws most of its technical definitions from well-established standards and best practices like NIST Special Publication 800-30 and ISO 17799. An example: you probably believe that you could define what a vulnerability is, or maybe what an exposure is, but would your definition be in line with the CBK? I often tell my students your definition may be fine at a dinner party, but when speaking to a group of peer professionals, your vernacular better be spot on, because a failure to effectively communicate can lead to security incidents. Let's explore a few of these definitions. What's a threat? Well, this is a potential danger to an asset, whether accidentally triggered or intentionally exploited. What's a threat source or a threat agent? This is anything and/or anyone that has the potential to cause a threat. Think of the sun as the threat source and sunburn as the threat itself. Then what's a vulnerability? Well, this is a flaw or weakness of an asset. Every asset has built-in flaws and/or weaknesses. What's an exposure? An opportunity for a threat to cause loss within an asset. Then what's a control? It's a way to basically limit exposure. Controls come in 2 types, technical and non-technical. They can be deployed as safeguards or countermeasures. Safeguards are preventive and deterrent type controls, and countermeasures are detective and corrective type controls. While we are on the topic of controls, let's take this opportunity to lay some additional foundational knowledge about controls. Although controls are categorized as technical and non-technical, non-technical can be further defined as administrative and physical. In the creation of a security process within an organization, the first type of controls that you'll deploy will be administrative controls. This is developing a policy, procedures, guidelines, baselines, developing an incident response program, developing business continuity and disaster recovery plans, and putting together operational and continuity testing. Most administrative controls can easily be violated, thus they must be supported by physical and technical controls. Technical controls are technological in nature. This is what is thought of when you use the terminology IT security. I think we can all agree that these types of controls are easily defined. These are firewalls, intrusion detection systems, fault tolerance and load balancing, such as clustering and RAID, and technical auditing. But technical controls must be supported by physical controls. If you lose access to the physical, all bets are off. Physical controls are things like locks and alarms, security guards watching for suspicious individuals and activities, and physical intrusion detection systems. Controls that you can physically touch usually fall in the physical controls category. Moving beyond terms and definitions in this domain, we come across the 3 information security management views of the CBK. They are technology, processes, and people. Noting that technology is only 15 to 20% of an information security solution, processes and people become the focus. In order to establish and maintain an information security management system within an organization, Senior management support is essential. One of the ways that senior management can support you is with a budget. This will give you the funds that you need in order to protect the informational assets of the organization. A top-down approach is essential to the success of an information security management system. Senior management must articulate their long-term security goals in an overarching security policy. Middle management will draw from the overarching policy to develop functional policies for each of their systems. Those functional policies will turn into procedures, standards, baselines, and guidelines at the day-to-day operational levels. Section 2. Information Security Management Structures and IT Security Governance. Okay, Claude, here's the situation. I just passed my CISSP exam and landed my first leadership job with a small, fast-growing firm. They have not taken information security seriously, and I've been hired to implement a formal information security management system for the first time. The question is, where do I start? First, that's an awesome opportunity. Second, don't even consider reinventing the wheel. As the CBK states, reuse is good, and there are best practices and standards that can be leveraged here. 4 such standard blueprints are COBIT, ITIL, COSO, and the ISO 27000 series. The CBK requires that you are generally familiar with these 4 blueprints, with emphasis on the international standard of ISO 27000. Let's take a moment to explore the origins of this standard blueprint. In 1995, the British standard 7799 was established for IT security. At the time, it was considered one of the most innovative approaches to security and quickly became an international hit. In the year 2000, the International Organization for Standardization adapted BS 7799 for post-Y2K IT environments, and they renamed it ISO 17799. I guess when you officially make something an international standard, you put a 1 in front of it, eh? ISO later combined with the International Electrotechnical Commission and created a subcommittee whose purpose is the ongoing development, refinement, and maintenance of information security standards. The subcommittee was given the designated number of 27, and each standard in their care carries that number as a prefix. In 2005, ISO 17799 was renumbered as ISO IEC 27002. Now, let's talk a bit about IT security governance. The CBK defines the following 3 processes as part of every IT governance system. 1. The definition and assignment of roles and responsibilities. 2. Security planning. And 3. Security administration. Roles and responsibilities must be clearly defined for the 2 major groups within your staff. Those 2 major groups are employees with full-time information security duties and those employees with general requirements for protection. Responsibility as it pertains to information security must be communicated at the time of hire and should be part of each employee's job description and appraisal process. A program for continuous security-related awareness, training, and education should be implemented. Termination procedures should be established to protect the organization from disgruntled employees that may wish to do it harm. Security planning stems from which information security standard blueprint is selected and usually begins with risk management processes. Security administration includes selecting, implementing, and monitoring security controls. Section 3. Risk Management and Analysis. There are numerous risk management models to choose from. I'll just mention a few. ANZ 4360, which was the first internationally accepted risk management model. Basel II, which was established in the United Kingdom. Octave, which was developed by the Software Engineering Institute. And of course, ISO IEC 27005. The CBK follows the outline of NIST Special Publication 800-30 as its approach to risk management. NIST Special Publication 800-30 was established as a standard in the United States for use in government institutions. According to this standard, risk management is made up of three processes: a risk assessment, controls implementation, and ongoing controls evaluation. A risk assessment includes 9 steps to determining risks to assets. Risk analysis is included in these steps. Risk analysis can be done quantitatively or qualitatively. Quantitative risk analysis is an objective approach to assigning a monetary value to loss or damage of an information asset. Qualitative risk analysis is a more subjective approach that uses scenarios to quantify the damage threats posed to information assets. Most risk assessments conducted in the real world use elements of both quantitative and qualitative risk analysis. The result of risk analysis provides a detailed estimate of the likelihood and impact of a particular undesirable incident. The output of the risk assessment phase feeds suggested actions and countermeasures to the next phase of risk management, controls implementation. When faced with risk, there are only 4 options. You could choose to avoid the risk, which might be a cheap solution, but of course would deprive you of the benefits of the activity. You could transfer the risk, like buy insurance or outsource the activity. You could reduce the risk, or you could accept the risk. Risk acceptance is usually only considered a viable option if the organization can absorb the financial loss that may be experienced if the risk is realized. Should an organization decide to reduce a risk, it will evaluate the recommended options coming out of the risk assessment phase. Options will be put through cost-benefit analysis, and controls that have the best cost-to-benefit ratio will be selected. In the final phase of risk management, ongoing controls evaluation, vulnerability assessments and penetration testing are used to ensure controls are continuously providing risk reduction to the established acceptable levels. Section 4. Ethics pertaining to information security professionals. ISGRM is serious about the ethical conduct of its membership and has established its own ethical code. All candidates are asked to sign a statement agreeing to follow the code before being allowed to take the exam. The ISGRM Code of Ethics has 4 canons. 1. Protect society, the commonwealth, and the infrastructure. 2. Act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. 3. Provide diligent and competent service to principals. And 4. To advance and protect the profession. These canons are expressed in the priority that they should be followed. Sometimes it becomes impossible to apply all of the canons as they may conflict in a particular situation. Remembering these canons in the prioritized order will help a member work through difficult ethical challenges. This concludes the preview of the Information Security Governance and Risk Management domain of ISGRM's CISSP CBK.